video is broadcast on LSL Podcast Channel. Thank you for listening. Please subscribe to the channel.
You are listening to The Laura Ingraham Show, 855-40-LAURA. The president traveling in Asia, reacting to the horrific shooting and the details we are learning in the aftermath. Still 26 dead, 20 injured, some badly. 8 members of one family, all dead after this attack, from 18 months to 77 years old. And we're learning more. Boy, do we need some questions answered. Number one, how did the Air Force drop this ball? They were supposed to enter him into the background check registry by notifying the Pentagon. There's a process in place notifying the Pentagon of his court-martial status and the fact that he was discharged for bad conduct. Did a year in the brig for spousal abuse. He cracked the skull of his infant child. Fractured. All of this happened, and he was then able to buy weapons. When we look back at some of the mass killers, the worst of the worst, the link to spousal and child abuse and animal abuse is stunning, but not surprising. Someone who has such a lack of a moral compass when it comes to violence against the truly vulnerable, could be capable of the worst that you can imagine in a human being. And that is another example of a fallen culture with a fallen family structure where family is just not all that important. And when family isn't the center of your life along with God, it's really hard to make it. It's hard to function in this society today with the internet, with all the things we know about it. And of course, he was a committed atheist. And he was such an atheist, by the way, that he turned off a lot of his friends who didn't want him to be very friends anymore because he was kind of sneering at them because of their belief structure. We're learning a lot more about this. Donald Trump was exactly right and ridiculed, by the way, I think it was about 6:15 on Morning Joe this morning. Lord help me for turning that on in the morning. But about 6:15 or so in the Morning Joe crowd came out and said, maybe it was 6:30. He said, well, he was close to saying the only thing that stops a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun. Right? How else are you going to stop him? By giving him a bouquet of roses? How else are you going to stop this fat freak? How else are you going to stop him? Oh, please, we're actually on your side. Please don't shoot us. How else are you going to stop him? Yeah, he shouldn't have gotten the gun in the first place, obviously. But in the moment, the only guy who actually stopped the carnage was Stephen Williford, who, by the way, we heard from in a local television interview, and he is extremely emotional. He is a plumber. That's what he does. He does stuff with his hands. He's not a guy who hangs out on the red carpet. He's not a guy who has a personal trainer and goes to Pilates classes. Okay, he's not a guy who has managers and PR flacks and people who are doing everything for him. He is a doer. And when he saw people in trouble, what did he do? He did stuff. He did the right stuff. Let's listen.
All I want to stress today is the people at that church. They're friends of mine, their family. And every time I heard a shot, I knew that probably represented a life. I was scared to death. I was scared for me, and I was scared for every one of them, and I was scared for my own family that just lived less than a block away. I'm no hero. I am not. I think my God, my Lord, protected me and gave me the skills to do what needed to be done. And I just wish I could have gotten there faster.
You know what I say to that? What a man. And what does it mean to be a man today? He has humility. He has strength. He has character. He has faith. He has a sense of community. He cares about his neighbors. That's what it means to be a man. That's a man. And I'm not a hero. He meant it. He meant that he wished he could be there to save the other people. By the way, last night on the Ingraham angle. If you missed it, you will be able to pick up clips on both lauraingraham.com and Facebook. What I want you to really watch, and I believe we can post it, Elisa will try to do this immediately for me. There was a man who came on at the very top of the show, Mike Jordan, whose son came face to face with the killer. He was across the street. He was working on a car at a garage, working on a car. His son was the first on the scene in the church. Son has some basic medical training. He's a medical assistant, had a part-time job as a medical assistant. His son was actually scheduled to be on the show last night. He's so emotionally distraught at the grisly images that he saw that he can't speak right now. That's how bad it was. Children with their heads, blown off. Women with their faces shot point blank range. This is what he saw. This is like battlefield injuries. This is an individual who should never have had a gun. The government dropped the ball. And I want to know who specifically. Did this happen over the last 10 months? He bought the guns before Trump came into office, I believe.
Yes, that's right. That's correct.
And so we need to know, was there some type of process that broke down? Was there an individual who was in charge of this particular aspect of the gun background check registry notification? Who at the Air Force dropped the ball? Now, with all of our technology and all of our ability to track people's whereabouts, it would seem to me that when we've lost 26 Americans, we can figure out pretty quickly who was in charge, who dropped the ball, and assure to the American people that this does not happen again.
Well, the Air Force has launched an investigation, but remember, it was 2012 when he was convicted of that domestic violence charge.
During Obama's term, and I'm not trying to blame Obama here, but during Obama's term, he was convicted in the court-martial.
But then the base, the initial reports are, his local base, did not then forward the conviction, which would have put him on the national registry. The National Criminal Registry. He was never added to that. So though convicted of the charge, he was not added to the registry and therefore walked in and lied on the form about.
My question is, why wouldn't the military court system, why wouldn't they have an automatic must enter, cannot do another case, cannot hear another case, cannot use your computers until this thing is entered into the system? We can't use our computers unless this darn update runs half the time. Why is there an ability for this to slip through the cracks? And I have another question. How many other people aren't on the list who were convicted of some type of abuse or other violent crime, who is not on the registry, who is able to then lie in a background check form and then able to purchase weapons? So are there other people who slipped through the crack? I mean, maybe we really need to do a complete shutdown of this military court system and this Air Force base until we can actually get to the bottom of this. I am so disgusted by bureaucracy anyway, but this really takes the cake. This is just mind-blowing. 855-40-LAURA. So on the Ingraham angle, we interviewed Paul Ryan, and he seems like he at least comes across as he's very pro-Trump now. Have you noticed what a difference a year makes? We're almost at the anniversary of the election, 1 year ago. Well, actually, it was 1 year ago today.
Yep.
But I'm thinking of the exact date. So the exact date would be tomorrow. Wednesday would be a year anniversary. But election day would be Tuesday, so let's say it's a year anniversary. I have a question for you on this year anniversary of Trump's historic victory. Is it going as well as you expected, not as well as you expected, or better than you expected? Has Donald Trump done better about what you expected or worse than you expected as the commander-in-chief, as the chief executive of our government, both domestic policy and foreign policy? 855-40-LAURA. As he is in Seoul, South Korea, a very important visit to our most important ally other than Japan in the region. So the Japanese want assurances from the United States that they will be protected in the event of a strike against the Japanese mainland by the North Koreans. And that Cabbage Patch Kid is all over state-run media today. That my kids in the kitchen this morning said, "Who's that?" Looking at him, I said, "That's a fat communist dictator. That's who that is. He's a Cabbage Patch evil dictator." They don't know what I'm talking. They don't even know what Cabbage Patch means. And them trying to explain. They're in the middle of eggs and oatmeal, and Dimitri just wants to play with his model plane. I said, "Okay, in 1951, we were in the middle of the Korean War. Okay, and who is?" And Maria says, "Oh, I know." I stopped. What do you think I said when she said, "I know"? I said, "Oh, really? Who was president during the Korean War?" "Oh, I forgot that." I said, "Okay, so you don't know the Korean War, so don't interrupt me." Truman was president, okay? Eisenhower ended up winning because people wanted out of Korea.
Hold on, I'm getting my Golden Hanger Mother of the Year award again
what?
out. Hold on.
When children,
here it is.
Thank you. When children interrupt and claim that
Don't
they
you
know
hate
something.
That? Oh, no.
Oh, yeah, I know that. Oh, really?
Yeah.
Let's review the social studies.
I get that. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
Yeah. Oh, I'm gonna
No, I'll give you yeah. And so then I explained the whole DMZ to them and how, you could go to the DMZ and you could look through binoculars and you could see the evil soldiers of North Korea looking back at you in binoculars. And that's where President Trump is. So I was trying to explain it to them. And I said, it's an armistice. We have an armistice. Their eyes glaze over when I talk about this.
Can we do a new podcast, Breakfast with Laura?
Oh, that would be fun.
That would be fun. Will you cook and share with us?
No, only if the video is in place.
The travails with the children and history.
Well, I come down this morning, and Nico has already fired up. You know how many eggs he put in?
No.
5 eggs. I said, "What are you, in high school?" He's 7 years old. 5 eggs. Then he rips up American cheese, drops it on top of the eggs that are already cooked, overcooked. And then he throws it into the microwave. I said, "Do you want to eat pebbles? Because that's what the egg is going to taste like." He rips it up. I said, "Put the cheese in the egg." Oh, no, but he's down here already. I got to say, it's nice independence for him to be making his own breakfast. That's pretty good at 7.5. All I did was throw the Cocoa Puffs in the bowl. I was lucky to have milk and Cocoa Puffs when I was a kid. All right, we'll take a break. 855-40-LAURA. Ingram Angle segments, of course, are on lauraingram.com and Facebook. So make sure to have those. Big election in Virginia today with Ralph Northam, famous for his nasty Confederate pickup truck with the Gillespie sticker on it running over Muslim and Latino kids. That's his claim to fame. Ed Gillespie seeking victory there, the Republican. Everyone should get out to vote. And Donald Trump's tweeting up a storm in support of Ed Gillespie. Gillespie should have had Trump campaign with him. That was a mistake.
That may have been a big mistake.
Big mistake.
But it's tightening. The race is tightening. But the Democrat right now is slightly up in the polls.
Well, again, if you had Donald Trump campaigning for you, you'd have real momentum out there. But, nobody listens to me. Thoughts and prayers. A controversy coming up. Thanks to my wonderful sponsors and your support, I'm glad to say that we can provide this podcast at no cost to you at all. As a loyal listener of my program, please consider testing our sponsors because they're the ones who actually cover the cost to produce this daily show. So if you're a dog lover like I am, how about giving your dog, your best friend, a fresh, healthy, and nutritious diet? When dogs eat well, they live longer and happier lives. I'm here to tell you about NomNomNow.com, which cooks the world's best dog food. It's made fresh in the USA and delivered right to your door every week. Nom Nom Now's customized recipes cook fresh in our kitchen, delivering healthy nutrition you can actually see. Switch to Nom Nom Now and your dog will have more energy, a shinier, softer coat, and a longer, better life. Nom Nom Now really is the best food for your best friend. And right now you can save 50% on your first 2 orders of fresh, healthy dog food when you use my code Laura at NomNomNow.com. That's code Laura and save 50% on your first 2 orders. NomNom now.com. And code word LAURA. A lot of you calling in. My simple question, a year later, election night was a year ago. Donald Trump proved all the experts wrong. Media experts, all the business establishment who threw all this money toward Jeb and Hillary, and of course the entertainment industry were all rallying for Hillary. All these freaks going door to door in Virginia and Miley Cyrus and all of them. Let's go to Lance in New York. Lance, line 1. Go ahead.
Yes, I think he's done worse, but not because of him, but because of the House and Senate aren't working with him and not even listening to a word he wants to say. And I'm 55 years old, and I always knew the government was corrupt, but now I'm like, holy crow, it's out to lunch. This is appalling. how corrupt
Well,
they are.
I would say that, Lance, it is his responsibility, however, as President of the United States. You have to deal with the people who are in power. He's not off the hook on this. The Congress is the Congress. Until you replace all the people who are stumbling blocks, Donald Trump has to deal with the cards he's dealt. Doesn't excuse Congress for screwing up Obamacare, but you also don't give Obamacare over to Congress knowing that a lot of them never wanted you to be president. Teresa in Arizona on line 2. Teresa, go ahead.
A lifelong Democrat voted for Trump, and I will tell you what I told my 19-year-old when he said, Mom, politicians are all the same. He's not going to get anything done. I said, as long as he stops the direction this country is going, he will be a success in my eyes. And he is. In spite of all the fighting and all the Congress that fights him, Republicans and Democrats, he's doing the best that he can with the cards that he's dealt, and he's fighting for us, and I love that he's still the same person that he campaigned. He's still the same as president.
Yeah, I mean, people are like, when is he going to stop tweeting? I said, when he wants to start losing, he's going to stop tweeting. Tweeting is his lifeline to the public. That's his direct conduit to the American voter. And he's going to keep tweeting. So stop asking me when he's going to stop tweeting. I hope he doesn't stop tweeting. Let's go to Linda in Florida. I'm totally embracing the tweets. I was a little against the tweets. Now I love the tweets. You know why? Because they annoy all the right people. Linda, go ahead.
Hi, Laura. I'm a patriotic American that doesn't take the knee or support the knee. Anyways, President Trump is doing a great job. He's a checklist guy. He's a businessman. As a businesswoman, I can tell you that he wants to get the job done. And he is going through that checklist as fast as he can. He's doing more than anybody has ever done in the first year. The problem is, Laura, as you well know, the left doesn't report it. So that's why you got to listen in and get to the conservative channel to hear everything that the president is doing.
I can't hear anything anyone is saying on the show. I got most of your point, but we got to get everybody on their handset, so you can't have them on their ear plugs or whatever they're talking through. But her point was that the economy is doing well and he's doing well despite everything. Look at the unemployment level, lowest in 17 years. 2 consecutive quarters of 3% plus GDP. Enthusiasm is up. Trade deficit still needs to be worked on, but pretty good so far. A lot more to get to on the Laura Ingraham Show coming up. Corey Stewart. Big off-year election. Virginia and New Jersey both have elections today. So it's off year. Everyone else thinks it's an even year. But remember, this is when Chris Christie and Bob McDonnell were elected in 2009. So Obama comes in and wins in 2008. And right away, you started to see a turn, both in Jersey and in Virginia. And today, it's Ralph Northam versus Ed Gillespie. It's an interesting state. It's become more purple or even Democrat, mostly because of immigration. Northern Virginia has completely changed demographically since I moved to the area in 1986 and 87. I moved here, and Alexandria, Virginia, kind of lots of middle-class people, kind of white working-class people. And, there was Hispanic folks, but it wasn't probably the biggest percentage. And certainly, I don't recall seeing a massive swath of Muslim Americans, which have moved into the region as well. Predominantly, it is a Latino and government employee makeup of the electorate. That has changed Virginia significantly.
The Beltway Bandits.
Beltway Bandits. Also in Richmond, Virginia, that's changed. Richmond has become more immigrant-dominated. Other parts of the state more immigrant-dominated. So what had been a rural, fairly conservative state has become, for Democrats, almost a reliable Democrat pickup. But will this change now? Ed Gillespie's different kind of cat because he was a Bushy. He ran against Mark Warner in 2014 and lost by 17,000 votes. Very tight margin. And he's not a populist. He's an establishment guy. However, he's kind of moved a little bit populist. Big shock.
He's had to.
He's had to because of the state. And meanwhile, Donald Trump has chimed in via Twitter today on Election Day.
Ralph Northam will allow crime to be rampant in Virginia. He's weak on crime, weak on our great vets, anti-Second Amendment, and has been horrible on Virginia economy. Vote Ed Gillespie today, right now.
MS-13,
Right now.
rampant.
Yeah, but
Under
then he goes on.
Oh, no, he
Next
has a
tweet.
whole litany
No,
of-
this is a litany of Gillespie
of-
tweets.
yeah.
President tweets.
He's over in Asia helping Gillespie. He didn't even campaign with Gillespie because Gillespie didn't invite him to campaign. What a
Ed Gillespie will totally turn around the high crime and poor economic performance of Virginia. MS-13 and crime will be gone. Gone. Vote today. ASAP.
ASAP. I love ASAP. Hashtag good day.
You can almost hear the aside.
Oh, no.
Vote today. ASAP.
Joining us now, Corey Stewart. He's a candidate for the Virginia Senate, and he's watching this race closely. And last time Gillespie couldn't bring it over the finish line. Now Donald Trump's in the mix, although not in the mix because he didn't campaign with Gillespie. Was that a mistake? Well, we'll be able to answer that question better, perhaps after the votes are tallied. Corey joins us now. Hey, Corey, how are you?
Hey, how are you, Laura?
I'm great. Give us a sense of how things look today.
Well, things have really tightened up as Ed has moved more toward the right, as he's embraced, the issue on illegal immigration, as he's embraced protecting historical monuments. The polls have tightened a lot. And then, of course, he couldn't have gotten a better gift than from the liberals when they ran that stupid ad. The Latino Victory Fund ran that ad of the white guy trying to chase down minority children in a pickup truck. And that is just, that's resounding
Lowest
across
of the
the
low.
state.
Yeah,
The lowest of the low and a big
especially
dumb
Corey,
mistake.
since illegal immigrants have in fact run down Muslim kids or teenagers and other innocent Virginians because of the open borders policy of the federal government and the failure to deport people. So the opposite is actually true.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, MS-13 is running rampant across the state. It's not just in Northern Virginia. It's down in the western part of the state as well, from Winchester all the way down to Bedford. So, Ed was smart to seize on this issue. It's one I used against him in the primary, and, almost defeated him. But it was primarily because of these hot-button issues that a lot of Virginians care about, not just Republicans.
Well, let's talk about whether it was a mistake for him to not invite Donald Trump to campaign. What is your gut on that? Because, look, again, Virginia is tricky. Trump didn't win Virginia. But there is still a lot of affection and support for Donald Trump in key turnout areas of the Commonwealth, correct?
That's absolutely correct. I mean, there was not a stronger part of the country for Donald Trump last year than Southwest Virginia. And this is an off-year election, and if you want to get your base out, you've got to embrace the President of the United States. You've got to embrace Trump. And Ed has refused to do that. He hasn't shown up on the stump with him, and I think that's going to hurt him. The President's tweets today could help. Ed's, moving more toward the Trump agenda in the last couple of weeks has definitely helped. If he doesn't win today, it's because he didn't embrace the President and didn't invite the President to come down and campaign for him.
Well, I think that the future of the Republican Party, and you saw this years ago, Corey, going back to 2008, you saw it. I mean, you're the only prominent Republican to win countywide in the state in how long?
Since 2009.
Right.
So,
okay, so
yeah, 8
but
years.
you saw it all those years ago that a populist conservative message, properly articulated, can be successful in the state and can work in the state, even with changing demographics. It can work. And Ed is, he still is quite establishment. And he's not really, a big fan of deportation. He's just not. You have been, and it doesn't mean you're going to win every election, but I think as far as we can discern, the juice for the Republican grassroots is populist.
Yeah, I mean, not only does it help get out the base, but, these core issues, illegal immigration, my county is 60-40 Democrat. It's a 60-40 Clinton county. It's almost 500,000 people here. It's in Northern Virginia. I've been winning it 4 times, largely on cracking down on illegal immigration, because whether somebody's a Republican or a Democrat or white or black or Hispanic or Asian, nobody thinks that an illegal alien who's here, who commits a crime, should be released. And so, I've been harping on this for 10 years. We've handed over 8,000 illegal aliens over to the feds for deportation, and I get African Americans coming up to me all the time saying, "Thank you for doing something about all these illegals who are running around the country, the county, committing crimes." It's an issue that more Republicans should embrace. I think the president showed that it's a winner. And it was a winner for me, and it's going to be a winner next year as well, I think.
Well, Corey, you weren't able to win that GOP primary for the gubernatorial race, however. You tried, and you couldn't do it. The establishment ended up beating you out there. However, Steve Bannon yesterday in the Washington Post said that because Gillespie adopted some Trumpian tactics, he did that, and he credited your influence on Ed Gillespie for moving to the right. Do you claim some credit there?
I'll take it.
Why not?
No.
I'll take it.
Why not? Mm-hmm. I mean, really, I did push him very, very hard. I attacked him very hard during the primary, and we came within 1%. We weren't supposed to get even nearly that close, but people are concerned about this, and they're also concerned. And the other big issue out there that Virginians in particular, because you live here, are very sensitive about, and that's taking down historical monuments. People are very guarded of their history here in Virginia, and Ed, as he's done a little bit to embrace protecting the monuments, that is definitely, I think that's going to that's built some momentum for him, especially in the western part of the state, the Republican base, and I wouldn't be surprised if at the end of the day it's Western
issue.
Virginia that
social
puts them over
issues
the top.
matter. Hey Corey,
Yeah,
I just thought of a
absolutely.
commercial. Hey, I just thought of a commercial for you. Ready? You ready?
Yeah.
For again, Corey Stewart's running against Tim Kaine in 2018 Senate race, because I didn't run for Tim Kaine, so Corey had to run. I didn't run against him, so Corey had
Thank
to run.
God
That would have
you
been
did.
fun
You would've
running
won.
against
You
you in the
would've won.
primary, Corey.
Yeah, I know you would have.
I'm just teasing. Totally teasing. But you know what? Here's a good commercial for you. So the video, the camera zooms in on George Washington, and then Jefferson, and then Adams, like all of these statues of the founders. And a tear is coming down their cheek on the statue, crying. And then you see Washington, Virginia, little Washington, Virginia. You see the plaques noting the classic and the most important battles of the Civil War. One, you put lines through them, knock them down, lines through them, and then at the end, it's more tears. You go back to Washington, or Washington's at the very end, and tear going down the statue. I'm sorry, but it's kind of cribs from the old Indian trash commercial when the Indian is crying. I'm serious. You're laughing at me, but I'm just giving you some free commercial here.
I remember the ad,
I wanted to be an ad person, by the way, and they didn't hire me. Maybe this is why my ideas are stupid. But remember when that was like a country is a terrible thing to waste or whatever, when they trash everywhere, and the Indian's looking over the plane, he sees garbage on the ground, he's crying. So now Washington is looking at this anti-historical onslaught on history, and he's crying for the nation. You're going to win the election if you just do that ad. Produce it right, but that's a good ad.
Yeah. Do I owe you royalties for that? I mean, that
no,
sounds pretty good to
I
me.
just want you to say on election night when you do your victory speech, when you deliver the speech, I just want you to say, I still remember when Laura Ingraham on the radio told me to do the Washington crying statue ad, and I just want to thank Laura. Okay, that's all. That's all I want.
You got it.
Corey, love having you on. Thank you so much for your perspective, and we're going to be watching very closely tonight. Gosh, Virginia has to save itself. Gillespie, everybody get out there and vote. Corey Stewart, Senate candidate 2018. He'll be up against Tim Kaine. My goodness, got to retire him. We'll take a break. Stay with us.
Not Diddy anymore.
Oh, Sean Diddy Combs changes his name again. Remember he used to be Puff Daddy? Then he demanded that everybody call him Diddy. Then was it just Did? Oh, no, I don't know. But now he wants to be called Love, a.k.a. Brother Love. He says he won't be answering to Puffy, Puff Diddy, Puff Daddy, or Diddy. Did he lose his mind? Before announcing what he called serious, I got serious news. Combs explained that the name change was due to the fact that he's changed as a person and is not what he was before. Well, that's good, because what he was before was pretty lame.
The arrogance it takes to rename yourself every decade or so.
I have a question.
It's absurd.
Is he launching a lifestyle site?
No.
Is he going to do like a Goop lifestyle
It
site?
looks like it, or an album or something.
Yeah, no,
I think
this
I'm
is
going to rename myself today.
What?
I'm going to be Brother Enlightenment.
Brother Enlightenment?
Brother Enlightenment.
What should my name be? I don't know what my name would be.
Mother Courage.
I don't like... Well, by the way, people... how about the fact that this freak who writes for theobserver.com, I don't even know what his name is, trashed me for wearing a cross on TV.
You church lady.
And then called me the church lady. First of all, I love the church lady. If all you young people out there who are listening, if you don't know what the church lady character on Saturday Night Live was,
Dana Carvey, hilarious.
do yourself a favor and Google it. The church lady. I'm happy to be called the church lady. I'm going to get that purse, too, that she had. That stiff purse. Well, I say that you're all doing this wrong. This is a sin. But she called me the church lady. I said, that's a absolute compliment in my book.
Could it be Satan?
Could it? Could it be you're repressing yourself?
Oh, hilarious.
So, and he calls me church lady.
And a
trash.
fundamentalist Catholic. An extreme fundamentalist Catholic.
Compliments will get you nowhere. I'm extreme. What does that even mean? That's someone who's not a cafeteria, right? If you're not a cafeteria, if you actually go to Mass and occasionally go to confession, then you're an Orthodox
Extreme fundamentalist Catholic.
They don't settle on just one adjective. They go for all three.
Well, why
Orthodox, fundamentalist, extreme, Taliban-esque Catholic. I mean, it's crazy. You're listening to the Laura Ingraham Show. Thoughts and prayers. Apparently they're upset over individuals who tweet our thoughts and prayers are with the victims in Texas. Do you find that's just too trite and that we should stop saying thoughts and prayers? Or do prayers work? Prayers work a lot better than just like changing your name to try to elicit change in society. All right, you're listening to the Laura Ingraham Show. Watch the Ingraham Angle tonight, 9 p.m. Eastern. 9 p.m.
10 p.m.
Why do
Eastern.
I want to be on at 9 p.m.? Okay, don't tell Hannity I said that. 10 p.m. Eastern time. Now the Democrats are deeply offended. They find that it has to be an either or. You either just pray, or if you pray, you can't do common sense investigation into why this guy got a gun. I don't understand this. It's a non sequitur. Prayers aren't enough. Well, nobody said we shouldn't do more things. We do want to find out how this freak killer got these guns. We do want to understand why his court-martial did not result in his being on the gun registry. Who dropped the ball and why? We want to know all of these things. Absolutely, yes. But prayer is really important. For most Americans, it is sustaining. It is, it's inspiring. It's a necessity. It keeps us going. That was Don Lemon from CNN. Others have said similar things about politicians and other media folks who have said, our thoughts and prayers are with the victims. We're praying for you. Let's listen.
It was a church. People were singing and praying and savoring life. I reject the notion that it is too soon to act. If not now, then when? We should ban assault weapons and bump stocks today. People who don't want to have an honest conversation say we need to wait. Well, for how long? Thoughts and prayers are not going to stop the next mass shooting.
It's a wonder that Kirsten Gillibrand wasn't on the ticket with Hillary. She's such a compelling speaker.
I don't remember Senator Gillibrand being quite so emotional when Barack Obama in 2013, after the shooting in the Navy shipyard here in Washington, tweeted out, and I quote, "We send our thoughts and prayers to all in the Navy Yard who've been touched by this tragedy." No one fulminated over that statement. And now it's as if you've committed some great act of horror if you say, "Oh, I'm praying for you," or "I'm praying for you in this tragedy."
You are refusing to do what needs to be done if you leave it at thoughts and prayers. See, President Obama was okay because he wanted to ban certain types of guns. He wanted gun legislation, so he can pray. But none of the rest of us can pray, apparently, and express our desire for prayer unless we want to do gun control.
Right. They're politicizing prayer.
I mean, it's just, this is why they lose elections. They don't understand that most Americans pray, and for most Americans, prayer is all they can do now.
Well, as that gunman, and we should play him again, not the gunman, but the shooter who took after this murderer.
Stephen Williford.
Williford talked about what
hero
sustained him in all of this.
Let's play that again, James, because people might have missed that earlier when we played it. Again, compare and contrast. This man who is not a fancy person, he is a plumber who can actually do things with his hands, unlike, frankly, a lot of us who can't do much with our hands, who can speak or write, but this guy can actually do stuff, okay? He's not an elite. He's an American. Let's listen.
All I want to stress today is the people at that church. They're friends of mine, their family. And every time I heard a shot, I knew that probably represented a life. I was scared to death. I was scared for me, and I was scared for every one of them, and I was scared for my own family that just lived less than a block away. I'm no hero. I am not. I think my God, my Lord, protected me and gave me the skills to do what needed to be done. And I just wish I could have gotten there faster.
Do you think that perhaps prayer mattered to Mr. Williford last night when he tried to fall asleep? This is, again, an example of an either a-religious or anti-religious or atheist, secular progressive mindset that, well, I mean, really, let's be honest. A lot of these people look down on the people in Sutherland Springs. If you just pull that church off of YouTube, and it was before the attack, how many of these elites would have just rolled their eyes? Oh, God. Backward, Bible thumper, yahoo, knuckle-dragging idiots. They're the white trash. They use phrases like white trash to describe those people. Bible-thumping white trash. Well, they're the best of America. The absolute best of America. 855-40-LAURA. The history of the killer is like the history of many of these killers. He took psych drugs as a kid. He had a troubled life as a child. He abused animals, women, children. The abuse, psychology of abuse, and the abuse he probably endured and then he inflicted on others. This is a common thread in a lot of these mass shootings. Common thread. If you will abuse a child, you're bound to do anything. Anything. How's he only in jail for a year? That's my question. A baby has a skull fractured? How's he in jail for a year? I don't even understand that.
Mental illness and the use of these mind-altering drugs that we do not fully understand, particularly in the young, leads to all sorts of horrible ends.
Is it time to drop this phrase, thoughts and prayers, after a tragedy? Just stop saying it because the elites don't want us to say it. Mark Furman is going to join us, former detective, LAPD, on what we know now that we didn't know 24 hours ago about this killer and what we can do to prevent something like this from happening again. How we can, as individuals, take responsibility for our own self-defense. So he'll share some thoughts with us on that. And I have to say that a lot of folks, when they come up to me when I'm traveling, they say, "Oh, Laura," a lot of people say it, and Raymond, you've been there when they say, "You look a lot younger in person than you look on TV." Well, I'm going to say thank you, first of all. When you say that, it makes me feel good at my age. Number two, I credit my friends, without a doubt, at Genucel. You go to Genucel.com. The folks who produce these great skincare products, the folks at the company Chamonix, they're just amazing. And Genucel works. I mean, I use it. I travel with it. And Thanksgiving, a couple weeks away, you want to look your best. You don't want to look like you're sleep deprived, like I am. I'm sleep deprived, but I look good. I put it on my eyelids and even under my eyes. Good stuff. So you get eye lift for tighter, brighter, and it looks your skin, your eyes look younger. So do this. Call them at 800-480-5206. That's 800-480-5206, or go to Genucel.com. Get special gifts you call within the next 20 minutes, and you end up getting like 4 free gifts when you act now. Again, go to Genucel.com or call them 800-480-5206. Paul Ryan I think he was the best that I've seen him in a long time last night. I'm not just saying that because I interviewed him. I'm saying because of what he said about prayer.
You're saying it because you interviewed him.
No, I'm not saying it, Raymond.
No, it was good. It was
I
good.
would fight with him if I thought he was bad. He was good.
Well, you did. You crossed swords a little bit with him. It was good over the tax plan.
He was really good. Debbie in Massachusetts. You try to take away my thoughts and prayers. Yeah, you try to take this cross off my neck. I'm going to be buried in this cross.
That gleaming gold cross on your purple vestment.
On your purple vestments that you wore. I wore a purple dress, and this freak leftist secularist atheist called them vestments. What a buffoon.
Religious bigotry
Laura
in all
unleashed.
its
Oh
ugliness.
my gosh. What you can't get on TV, you're going to get on this radio show. Because I'm cranky. All right, Debbie, go ahead.
What upsets me the most, Laura, is time after time with these shooters, when we look into their background, they started with abusing family members, children.
That's what I said.
That this man abused animals. That this man did what he did to his wife. Never mind a child. Domestic abuse, child abuse in this country is so rampant, and we do nothing. I mean, that he served such a short time. That's when it began. Anybody who could do what this man did was bound to end up exactly like it was.
Killing himself or killing someone else. I appreciate it, Debbie. Let's go to Maureen in Indiana. Mo, go ahead.
Well, I think that actually it's not foreordained that this guy would have done this. Had he been in church, he wouldn't have committed this act. And I would much rather have a gun in the hand of a God-fearing Christian than in the hand of an atheist with a grudge.
Oh, that's a great point. That's a great point. Thank you, Maureen. Let's go to Kim in Florida. I like we got the women calling in. Don't mess with them. Kim, go ahead.
No, fired up. I'm going to go for Maureen as well. It was thoughts and prayers of people in their hearts who actually got up and went and did something and stopped that shooter. And perhaps if some of these Hollywood elitists and mainstream media had thoughts and prayers in their hearts, they would have stood up to people like Harvey Weinstein and Kevin Spacey. They need a little thoughts and prayers in their life.
Well, we deplorables are just not gonna. We're not gonna take their nonsense. A year after the election, the same people who got it wrong predicted Hillary, predicted a economic collapse after Trump was elected, predicted global economic collapse, predicted Trump the isolationist wouldn't be able to get along with anyone else, and America would go down the tubes. All of them have been proven wrong, as Trump is beyond engaged in the rest of the world, on a really important trip in Asia, already had a very successful trip to Europe, already traveled to the Middle East. The economy is booming, and it's going to boom even more once we get this tax reform through. So all the people who were wrong a year ago, the secular left, the atheists, they're all a bunch of bitter people. The bitter Bushes, they're all just trying to claw their way back. Guess what? The door's closed. Not clawing your way back. Door's closed. We're putting a towel underneath the crack in the door. You're not coming underneath the crack either. The Bushes are so bitter. Bitter. You're very bitter. Bitter Bushes.
Laura, why are you behaving like that? Come on now, come closer. Come over here by Pappy.
Let me grab your tush.
Turn around, darling.
It's like two cantaloupes. Yes. The Bushes are bitter. They call Trump a blowhard.
Fingertips very sensitive, Laura.
They call Trump a blowhard? Are you kidding me? 1,000 points of defeat in 1992. The populist Ross Perot took you down in 1992. You couldn't beat Bill Clinton. You know what George H.W. Bush gave us? I could have added this to my mini monologue at the end of the show. You know what George H.W. Bush gave us? He gave us a rising China with his cockamamie ideas on trade, He paved the way, by the way, for China to enter the WTO long before, when he was ambassador to China back in the 70s. He ended up giving us oral sex in the Oval Office because, guess why? Well, guess why? Because Bill Clinton got elected in 1992. He gave us Ruth Bader Ginsburg on the Supreme Court. Bill Clinton put her on the court. He gave us disaster, young people learning about all this depravity because he couldn't beat Bill Clinton. Because he was a globalist, elitist, Connecticut blue blood, and it was a disaster. And so he's going to complain about Trump. Trump's the antidote to globalism.
I don't want to be in the leader, Laura.
Yeah, well, guess what? I know you're at the end of your days, but I just don't like people criticizing Trump. And it's one thing if HW was helping us when Obama was in. They were crickets when Obama was doing. You couldn't find the Bushes. Hey, where are the Bushes? Are they going to help us on what's Benghazi? Are they going to help us on the IRS? Oh, no, I haven't heard from the Bushes. Hey, no Bushes. They're pushing brush around the ranch in Texas. He's
got the family over here at Kenny Bunkport.
Yeah, they're in Kenny Bunkport on the speedboat. You can't get the Bushes to help you when you need them to help you. But when Trump's in office, when a Republican finally wins, after the last time they won was 2004 by the skin of their teeth, only because people like I and Sean Hannity and others, we helped back in 2004. Since 2004, it's like bubkiss from the Republicans on the national level. And so they're complaining about us? Gosh, thank God for the Tea Party and Donald Trump. That's all I can say. A year later, Bushes are bitter people. Bitter. The last Republican. No, the last globalist. Let's rewrite that dumb book that just came out. The Last Globalist. That's what I want to write. My next book should be The Last Globalist. Billionaire at the Barricades, by the way. Get your copy. It explains the bitter Bushes. It explains the rise of Trump. A year later, you will understand what happened to bring Donald Trump to power and what is going to happen in the months to come if he follows my prescription. Billionaire at the Barricades. Get it on Amazon.com, across the United States, at great bookstores near you, and support your local bookstores if you can. We'll take a break on the Laura Ingraham Show. Mark Furman up next. Oh, we still have 45 seconds. I have trouble hearing things lately. I think I have a little bit of a hearing issue. But Furman's great. I like Furman. He's also no nonsense. He's one of those guys that just, I'm going to tell you the way it is.
This shooting is...
No. When you're finding more, I find out more about the carnage, which is why the man who confronted the killer and then went into the church, first person to get there, can't speak.
And animated by faith. All of these people are animated by faith.
Faith, family, and country. Stay with us. You are listening to the Laura Ingraham Show, 855-40-LAURA. If you are proficient firearm use, do you believe you have an obligation to carry your weapon concealed? Do you believe you have a right? I believe you have a God-given right to carry a weapon and to be able to defend yourself and your family. I think it's a God-given right, inalienable right. Do you believe it's your responsibility to do so? Now, you can't go into a courthouse with a gun unless you work at the courthouse and you're security. That's fine. There are other places where you can't go, and you can't go on a plane with a gun. Okay. But what about a public place where you could be a victim? Do you feel like you have an obligation to defend yourself? And if you're proficient in firearm use, do you have a God-given right to carry it? 855-40-LAURA. Joining us now, Mark Furman, former LAPD, and we love him on Fox News. Just common sense approach to these issues. Mark, it is great to talk to you. It is not surprising at all, in my view, that the left moves for the guns. You've seen the debates on television. Well, it's an AR-style weapon. This man shouldn't have gotten the guns in the first place. We all know that. But the lurch for the guns is just the Pavlovian response from the left.
Well, I watch it, and I expect almost a knee-jerk reaction from the left to immediately try to blame an inanimate object that takes a human being to make it operational, no different than a car, no different than opioids, no different than anything else that's a life-threatening situation in America. And for some reason, they just can't grasp that idea that somebody with a mental defect will find a way to kill you. If you take all the guns on the planet away, he'll get 10 propane tanks and accelerate it with an explosive and take that whole church up all at once, and everybody would have perished.
Mark, when you heard about the neighbor and the plumber who took it upon themselves to engage the killer, what went through your own mind?
Well, I felt that I wanted him to not only make hits on the suspect, but I wanted him to be responsible for the death of the suspect, because I think you certainly can't have any balance in this situation, but I think it's obvious what occurred there. A man that was an NRA instructor, he instructed people on carrying concealed weapons, on marksmanship. He assessed the situation. He paused and saw long enough that this was not a police operation, this was not a police officer, and he engaged the suspect exactly the way he should, and the suspect dropped his weapon and ran. This was the only good part of this entire tragic situation, and he was humble, and he was thoughtful, and he demonstrated that he was scared and tentative, but he took action, and this is exactly what we need to see.
And I think that a lot of Americans today, and thinking if they were in that same situation, someone begins firing at you, Mark, from behind, it's the last thing you expect when you're in church. Even if you're an individual with a gun on you and you know how to use the weapon, it's a hard deal, is it not, to be able to drop, roll, and try to take this guy out if you're in the church.
It is. I saw your show last night, and I saw the Navy SEAL that trained, and he was very articulate and very methodical with what he was saying. But yes, it is, and it takes a lot of training. And you know, when I listened right before I came on the show about concealed carry, that's an ominous responsibility for somebody to carry a weapon, and once they draw it, to engage and to know what you're doing, when to do it, and to whom. And that takes hundreds, if not thousands of hours for the police and military to drill it into a reaction, not a thought process. And that's what you're talking about. It's like a martial art. If you have to think about the punch, you're already unconscious. You have to react, and you have to charge the fire to reduce the kill zone. You actually have to do the most unnatural thing in the world, is instead of trying to run away from it, which expands the kill zone, you have to run towards it. And this is exactly what the shooter is not planning on. And if you have a weapon, you charge and shoot at the same time.
Well, at least you have a fighting chance. I mean, you do have a fighting chance. And so Stephen Williford grabs his gun, and he's like, let's get in the truck. Let's try to get this guy. And when he said, I was afraid, but I knew with every shot that he fired, one of my friends is probably either badly injured or dead. And he's not, I don't believe he's former military. I think he's just a guy who lives in the community.
Well, he was an NRA instructor, Laura, and NRA instructors are some of the people that actually train people to be able to carry concealed weapons. And part of that is engaging, knowing your target, knowing when to engage, and if you should engage. And so he had these things in the back of his head already. He was already trained. So he assessed the situation, and he knew he had to take action. And this is something that we're missing a little bit in the concealed carry. I think the training should be expanded to perhaps 2 weeks to a month, to really some hands-on and some physical training, so people know just exactly what it's like to run 100 yards and then try to shoot at 15 yards and hit a man-sized target. I mean, these types of things is what people need to do, not just take a 2-day course, strap on a Glock, and think that they're going to Dirty Harry their way through a bank robbery.
No, it's a disaster. No, I mean, people trying to react in real time. You're right. It's like an instinct that I have for radio. I don't think about doing radio. I just do it. Like, and you have to have that reaction to something deadly. A gun is a deadly instrument. And from safety to aiming to knowing when to even brandish your gun. These are all muscle memory things that you just have to know. And obviously military, I was with some Army Ranger guys over the weekend at the Alabama game, Mark, and just the finest young men. I mean, they're all going off to their various, for 101st Airborne, and oh my God, they're incredible people. But they're, they've been doing for the last 2 years is training. That's all they've been doing, and it's muscle memory now for them.
Well, Laura, when for anybody listening out there that carries and has a weapon at their disposal, whether in their car or at their home, if you're not firing that weapon at least 100 rounds a week, you are losing the skills to use that weapon when you don't have time to think. Military and police, myself and a lot of my friends were firing 500, 600, 700 rounds a week because that is what you need to stay on that sharp edge to actually know your weapon. So it's an extension of your hand, not a tool like a hammer you pick up once every 6 months.
Mark Furman, it is just always so great to have you on. I hope you come on TV soon. And thanks for your analysis. It's sober. It's a sobering thought. When you get behind a vehicle, Mark, you got to know what you're doing. You can't be distracted. Can't be drinking, driving. Can't be whacking the kids in the back seat. You got to be focused on the road. Exactly. Deadly instrument.
And congratulations on the new show. You're doing a really good job.
Thank you. Any ideas you have, send them my way. But I want you on the show soon. I know you're busy, but I'd love to have you on. So Mark Furman here on the Laura Ingraham Show, 855-40-LAURA. We have a great show on tap for tonight. The president in Korea on his way to China. And China has the big 2025 initiative. Remember, their goal is to dominate biotech, 3D printing, heavy manufacturing, commercial aviation, software design and engineering, rare earth materials, precious metals, and pretty much everything else. That's what their goal is by 2025. So they're rolling out the Chinese red carpet for Donald Trump, putting on the Ritz for him. And they hope that, smooth it all over with the United States. All these trade cheating stuff they've done, look the other way, President Trump, because we'll throw some bones your way on North Korea. We're going to talk about that and a lot more. And coming up, more on this, and an angry woman gets a flight diverted over a cheating husband? Coming up. That was Mike Jordan, whose son came face to face with the killer and was, I believe, the first person to enter that church after the carnage. So shaken up he can't even appear on television. Vonda in Texas, whose friend was a victim in this horrific attack. Vonda.
Yes, hello.
Go ahead, Vonda. What would you like to share with us?
Hi. My friend, Joanne Ward, was in the church the morning the shooter came in, and her 4 children were with her in the service. Oh. And when the shooter opened fire, a bullet grazed the 9-year-old, that's her oldest. A bullet grazed her face and knocked her glasses off. And Joanne immediately threw her to the ground, and where her name is Rihanna, where she says that she hid from the shooter. She says, he didn't shoot me because I was hiding. And Joanne immediately scooped up her other 3 who were right next to her, even younger, age 7, Emily, age 5, Ryland, and age 5, Brooke. And she scooped them up and tucked them under her and put her body over them, where the shooter proceeded to shoot them all. And so all 4 of them sustained gunshot wounds, and the 5-year-old Brooke was killed, and we know the 7-year-old Emily also died on the operating table after a major artery was severed.
Oh, no.
Ryland has sustained extensive injuries, has gone through extensive surgeries. Oh. His hip was operated on, his bowel, his 2 legs.
How did you learn of your friend and she died? protecting her children?
I'm close friends. I'm close friends with the family, so I immediately went to the hospital, and this is what Rihanna, her 9-year-old, told me. And the family, I've been in close contact with the family, and they've asked me to be their spokesman because her story is just not getting out. They said
will you do me a favor, Vonda?
Yeah.
Will you do me a favor?
Yeah.
I want you to stay on hold because I want to see if you'll come join us tonight on the Ingraham Angle. I have not heard this story, and I think you're absolutely right. Vonda, you know why I want to tell this story at length tonight? Is because it demonstrates a number of things. Number one, a mother's love. We think of Mary at the foot of the cross, seeing her son crucified, suffering as she saw him, but her sacrifice, her love, knowing that he had to go through this. We think of your friend shielding her children. They all end up getting shot, but she was able to save one, who is and her name is Ryland, who is able to survive after horrible surgeries. But we have to understand this is what we should take away: a mother's love, and they are a faithful family. Vonda, correct?
Oh yes.
Deep faith. Is there a husband?
Her.
Is there a husband or father?
Yes, when I counseled her 3 years ago, when I met her, she had major problems going on in her life, just normal, family issues, and she called me, and she was so far from the Lord at the time, and I would counsel her and tell her, you've got to have faith, you've got to trust God with, these issues, and eventually, 3 years later, her faith is strong.
Hold on, Vonda. We're going to get your information. I really appreciate your calling in. Thank you very much for sharing this. We'll take a break. Don't go away.